Hey everybody, we're going to start Hamlet. I'm apprehensive because I've never taught Hamlet online. I've only taught it in person, face to face, full of drama. So, I don't know how this is going to go down, but we're in it together. So, here we go. So yeah, here's our Hamlet text. I'm going to click on it. I usually read this one. This is my Hamlet text, so it's weird, this screen business. I like a book. I'm a fan of a book, but whatevs. I guess this will be alright. Yeah. Oh, look what I got on Amazon at the beginning of the pandemic. Woo. I kind of lost my business at the beginning of the pandemic and bought a whole bunch of stuff I didn't need. But I think I need this. I'm going to put him in my car. I love him. Shakespeare. Alright, I'm going to put him over here so he can watch us. Okay, because he'll approve. Alright, so when you click on the text, go over here to PDF full text and click on it. Also, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read like Act 1, Scene 1, and then I'll make another video for Act 1, Scene 2, and we'll just do them by scene. I think that might be easier. So, there may be outfit changes. There may not be outfit changes. Depends on how long I feel like talking to myself in a room about Shakespeare. So, here we go. Act 1. Let's click on it. Let's see what this text looks like. Let's see if I approve. Oh, I disapprove. It's very large. Let's see if I can make it smaller. Oh, alright then. Oh, it's too small. Too small. Okay, here we go. Act 1, Scene 1. We are at Elsinore, a platform before the castle. Now, Elsinore is the capital of Denmark, and the castle it's where the action of Hamlet takes place. All right. So at the very beginning of Hamlet, we have two guards who are on a battlement. Do you guys know what a battlement is? It's like this. I'll draw you a battlement. I'm a very good drawer. Y'all are about to be super impressed. Alright, so, you know when you imagine what a castle should look like in your brain? And the very, very top of the castle, I'm going to draw two people on the castle. I will draw Bernardo and Francisco. Wait, they should have sharp swords, because they're on guard. I should give them hats. I don't know what kind of hats they wear. Alright. Here's a battlement. And there's Bernardo and Francisco on top of the battlement. We are guarding Elsinore. Alright? You got it in your brain? So that's where we're starting Hamlet at. On the battlement. Alright, so Bernardo hears somebody coming. Now, the thing you need to know about Bernardo is when he says, "Who's there?" he's not like, "Who's there?" No, Bernardo is on edge, and we find out why in a bit. So generally, when you will see an actor on stage, they'll be like, "Who's there?" and they'll freak out. And then Francisco is, "Nay, answer me, stand and unfold yourself." So he's like, when he says unfold yourself, he's like, "Reveal yourself to me, I will reveal myself." So Bernardo goes, "Long live the king." And then Francisco goes, "Bernardo, is that you?" And then Bernardo goes, "He." And then Francisco, "You come most carefully upon your hour," which is a cool way to say, "You're right on time, bruh." So, Bernardo continues, "'Tis now struck 12, get thee to bed, Francisco." Now, it's important that we know what time it is, that it is 12, that it is midnight, because that will be important later. So, then he tells his buddy to go to bed, and Francisco says, "For this relief, much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold, and I am sick at heart." So Francisco is glad that his buddy's there to let him go home. He doesn't have to be on that scary battlement. This guy freezing his tuskus off, guarding the castle. But he's also sick at heart, which means he's sad. And we find out why in a bit. So then Bernardo goes, "Have you had quiet guard? Like, has anything happened? Anything happened?" And again, we've got to remember that Bernardo is on edge. We'll find out why in a minute. And he goes, have you had quiet guard? And Francisco goes, not a mouse stirring. And Bernardo goes, well, good night. If you do meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rivals of my watch, bid them make haste. So from this, we know that Horatio and Marcellus are going to show up in a bit and that he's waiting on them. And then Francisco goes, oh, I think I hear them. Stand, ho, who is there? So he's kind of still edgy. Everybody's edgy. Everybody's on edge. We're about to find out. So then Horatio and Marcellus come in. Now, Horatio is Hamlet's BFF, best friend forever. Horatio is Hamlet's, top squad man. Loves him. So, Horatio goes, friends to this ground, and Marcellus goes, and liegemen to the Dane, give you good night. And then Marcellus, oh, farewell, honest soldier, who hath relieved you? So now he's just making sure that there's somebody on guard, if, because one's leaving, one's got to make sure. And, of course, so they switch off. And then everybody exits except for Marcellus, Bernardo, and Horatio. And he goes, hola, Bernardo, which is like, yo, what's up? And then Bernardo say, what is Horatio there? And then Horatio has this beautiful line that I love so much. And he says, a piece of it. So he's like, Horatio, are you there? And Horatio was like, piece of me anyway. Because Horatio's heart is broken. So Francisco, Bernardo are all on edge and sad. And then also Horatio's really sad because he only has a bit of a piece of him left. And then Bernardo goes, welcome Horatio, welcome good Marcellus. And then we start to unravel the mystery Scooby-Doo style of why these guys are on edge. And he says, what? Has this thing appeared again tonight? So something spooky is happening. And Bernardo goes, I have seen nothing. And then Marcellus, Horatio says 'tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him, touching this dreaded sight twice seen of us. Therefore I have entreated him along with us to watch the minutes of this night, that if again this apparition is a ghost, they've seen a ghost, that if again this apparition come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it. Alright, so we need some information about this ghost and why they think Horatio will speak to it. First of all, Horatio doesn't believe it, right? The next line, tush, tush, 'twill not appear, means Horatio's like, dude, there is no ghost. You guys are Craytown. So, first of all, he's there because he's a disbeliever, and he will, give them some street cred if he actually sees a ghost, right? Also, Horatio is a scholar, which means Horatio has been to college. He's a learned man, okay? Back in the day, back in Shakespeare's time, they believed that ghosts spoke Latin. So if somebody was going to speak to the ghost, they needed to be able to do so in Latin. And because Horatio is a scholar, he can speak Latin. So they're like, perhaps this is why the ghost hasn't talked to us the last 2 times we have seen him. Okay, so that's what's going on. So then Bernardo goes, sit down a while, and let us once again assail your ears that are so fortified against our story, what we 2 nights have seen. So Bernardo's like, yo, sit down. We are going to tell you this story again that you are just refusing to believe really happened. I'm going to tell you what happened. And then Horatio goes, well, sit we down, and let us hear Bernardo speak of this. And then Bernardo begins his tale, his ghostly tale. Last night, of all, when yon same star that westwards from the pole had made his course to illume that part of heaven. So he's just talking about the position of the stars at a particular point at night. This ghost seems to come at a particular time. And he goes, where now it burns Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating 1. And then Marcellus jumps in, peace, break thee off, look, where it comes. The ghost comes in, dude, and the ghost is armed, like it's ready for battle. And Bernardo, looking at the ghost, goes, oh, it's in the same figure like the king that's dead. And then Marcellus goes, thou art a scholar, speak to it, Horatio. I always imagine, like, Marcellus grabbing Horatio and, like, putting him in front of him and being like, speak to him, you handle this ghost. So, it's pretty tense. Then Horatio goes, most like it harrows me with fear and wonder. Also, we figure out who the ghost is. The ghost is the dead king. Okay? Which, spoiler alert, it's King Hamlet. This play can get a little confusing because we have King Hamlet and then we have Hamlet, who is Prince Hamlet, but we call him Hamlet. So, King Hamlet is often called the ghost or King Hamlet. Okay? So, alright, so Horatio, most like it harrows me with fear and wonder, and Bernardo goes, it would be spoke to. And then Marcellus again pushing Horatio, question at Horatio. And then Horatio looks upon the ghostly figure and says, what art thou, that usurps this time of night, together with that fair and warlike form, in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march? By heaven I charge thee, speak! That was pretty good. Alright, so we learn here that the ghost, when it says, in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march, the ghost is wearing, like, his battle armor. He's in full battle armor. And then, when it says, by heaven I charge thee, speak, Marcellus said, it is offended. And Marcellus says this because on the play, the ghost kind of starts shrinking away. He's like, ooh, and he kind of sneaks off the side of the stage. And then Bernardo goes, see, it stalks away. And Horatio gets ill. He's like, no, stay, speak, I charge thee, speak. But the ghost isn't having it. The ghost is like, nope, I'm out. And then he bounces. So, the ghost exits off stage at this point. Then Marcellus is like, 'tis gone, and will not answer. And then Bernardo's like, how now, Horatio? You tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What think you on it? So Bernardo gets a little sassy. He's like, ooh, I thought you didn't believe in ghosts, Horatio. Now you're all scared and pale. What do you think now? So Bernardo sasses it up. And then Horatio goes, before my God, I might not disbelieve without the sensible and true avouch of my own eyes. So basically, he's like, if I hadn't seen this with my own eyes, there is no way that I would have ever believed that this happened. And then Marcellus goes, is it not like the king? And then Horatio says, as thou art to thyself, which I think is really cool. It's almost like somebody looking in the mirror and going, well, there I am. So he's saying that the ghost looks so much like the king, right? And then he goes, such was the very armor he had on when he, the ambitious Norway, combated. So frowned he once when, in an angry parle, he smote the sledded Polacks on the ice. 'Tis strange. So when we hear Norway, we're going to see Norway. It's kind of like a subplot of the story. But what Horatio is referring to is a battle that the king fought in the past, where he fought Norway. And we're going to be introduced to Fortinbras, which is also a confusing situation because there's a King Fortinbras and then there's a Fortinbras, much like there's a King Hamlet and then like little baby Hamlet. So, but we'll get into that. But that's the battle that he's referring to. And King Hamlet beat down Norway. So, that'll come into play a bit later. So he's saying that the ghost of the king looked much like he did when he was on the battlefield fighting Norway. So, Marcellus, thus twice before and jump at this dead hour. So the ghost shows up, and he's very timely. He's always on time. Had gone by our watch. And then Horatio, in what particular thought to work, I know not. But in the gross and scope of my opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. Now this is important because Horatio is pointing out that the ghost may be a sign that something bad is going to happen in Denmark. It's like a bad omen. So he thinks that the ghost is a bad omen. That's what he says, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. This is not good. And then Marcellus goes, good, now sit down and tell me, he that knows. Now Marcellus here, when he says, good, now sit down, basically he wants the tea. He's like, Horatio, there's some things that have been going on that are weird in Elsinore. And he says, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land. So first of all, he's like, why are we on observant watch? Why are we on top of the battlement in the middle of the night? This is not usual. And then he goes, and why nightly toils the subjects of the land? So the people who just live around the castle, why are they having to work all night? Why is everybody seen to be, on task? And then he continues, and why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart of implements of war? So these people aren't just toiling, they're not just making, bread at night. They're making war implements, like, I don't know, medieval war stuff to kill people with in medieval times. I don't know, those mace things. So everybody's down there, like, making weapons, right? And he goes, why such impressive shipwrights whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? And I like that, does not divide the Sunday from the week, because these are a Christian people, so they're not supposed to work on Sundays. And Marcellus is like, we're even working on Sundays, which is the Lord's Day. Why is this happening? And then he goes, what might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night joint laborer with the day? I like that, night with the day, that they don't stop at a particular time and then go home to their families. The night has turned into the day and they just work continuously. And then he goes, who it's that can inform me? And Horatio goes, that can I can inform you. And then he says, at least the whispers goes so. So he's like, I'm going to give you some tea now that you need to know what's up. He says, our last king, whose image even but now appeared to us. So he's talking about King Hamlet, the ghost that just appeared to us, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world would esteemed him, did slay this Fortinbras. All right, so we just learned that King Hamlet killed King Fortinbras. Dead. Who by a sealed compact, well ratified by law and heraldry, did forfeit with his life all those his lands, which he stood seized of, to the conqueror. Against the which a moiety competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been vanquisher, as by the same covenant and carriage of the article designed his fell to Hamlet. All right, so once King Hamlet killed King Fortinbras, Hamlet got all the land. King Hamlet got all the land. So he's like, yes, I am rich in land. Like, he totally won that risk game. However, now, Sir Young Fortinbras, right? So we have King Fortinbras, little baby Fortinbras, just like we have King Hamlet, little baby Hamlet. Little baby Fortinbras of unimproved metal, hot and full. This unimproved metal, hot and full, means that he's naive, he's ambitious, he's passionate, he's rash, he's not very logical. So we've got this young dude who's like ready to come kill everybody in Denmark. Alright? So that's what's happening. Little baby Fortinbras is coming for Elsinore. So that's why everybody's working at night making medieval type weapons. Had he been vanquisher, wait, I've already read that. Oh yeah, okay, here we are. Hath in the skirts of Norway, here and there, sharked up a list of lawless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise that hath a stomach in it, which is no other. So generally when you create an army, or one state will go to war with another state, you have soldiers that live by a soldier code. However, young Fortinbras is not having it. He has went out and found lawless resolutes. So, like, vagrants and I always imagine pirates They're just really bad guys, just seedy little bad guys for hire. And so instead of honorable soldiers, he has these like really horrible groups of, they have absolutely no morals, and they feed, their appetite is just on killing. So these are not the people that you want to deal with on the battlefield. But that is what he's done. He has a huge group of lawless resolutes, and they're coming. And it says, as it doth well appear unto our state, but to recover us by strong hand and terms compulsatory, those foresaid lands, so by his father lost. So little baby Fortinbras wants all the land back that his dad lost once King Hamlet, stabby, kill, whatever. So he wants the land back. And this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations, the source of this our watch, and the chief head of this post-haste and rummage in the land. So Horatio's like, that's what it is. Baby Fortinbras coming for us, so we got to get the ready. So that's what's happening. Then Bernardo goes, yes, I think it be no other, but in so, well, may it sort, that this portentous figure, and he's talking about the ghost, the portentous figure, comes armed through our watch, so like the king that was and is the question of these wars. Then Bernardo's like, maybe he's coming to us in a form of a king on the battlefield, because he knows that we're about to go back to war. And then Horatio has this great line. A mote is to trouble the mind's eye. A mote is like a splinter, so it's like a splinter in your mind's eye, like it troubles and it's annoying and it hurts and it's there and you can't get rid of it. In this next part, he's going to draw a parallel to Julius Caesar in Rome, and how Julius Caesar fell, and how there were like certain omens and terrible things that occurred. I'm not going to read this line full, I'm just going to go through. He says that the grave stood tenantless, the sheeted dead rose from the dead, and they roamed the streets of Rome in zombie form. Stars with trains of fire and dews of blood, so like the sky turned to like blood, and there were disasters in the sun. And he goes on. So he said that there were kind of omens before things got bad for Julius, and so he's kind of making that analogy that perhaps that's what's happening in Denmark. But as he's telling us, as he's making this parallel between Rome and Elsinore, the ghost comes back. Re-enter ghost. And he goes, I'll cross it, though it blast me. So Horatio's like armed, like he's ready to do one of these, do whatever he's got to do. And so he's like, stay illusion. So he doesn't want the ghost to leave again. And then he begs him, if thou hast any sound or use of voice, speak to me. Speak to me if there be any good thing to be done, that may to thee do ease and race to me, speak to me. So first of all, he wants it to tell him if there's something that he can do to make his plight better. Because he's obviously not in heaven, chilling. He's roaming the earth, and it's bad. So he's like, can I do anything? And then he asks him a second thing. He goes, if thou art privy to thy country's fate, which happily foreknowing may avoid speak. So the second thing he says is like, are you psychic? Do you know what's going to happen? And if you do, tell me. Give me some foreknowledge. And then this last one, I really like this last one. He goes, or if thou hast uphoarded in thy life extorted treasure in the womb of earth, for which they say you spirits of oft walk in death. So this last thing, extorted treasures in the womb of earth, he asks him if he has any buried treasure. He's like, have you hidden any treasure? Have you buried it in the ground? And if so, give me a heads up, because, I would love to have all the treasures. So, and this is kind of a common thing, as you guys watched in the David Tennant video, that ghosts came back, people believed in Shakespearean England, only for particular reasons. And one of these reasons was perhaps they buried some gold or some treasure somewhere, and they want to let their family and give them a heads up that, hey, it's over there. So that's why he asks. And at this point, the cock crows. On stage, the ghost starts kind of shrinking back. And so Horatio gets really upset. Speak of it, stay and speak. Stop it, Marcellus. So again, the ghost is wanting to like retreat. The ghost is starting to run away. And Marcellus gets ill, and he's like, shall I strike it with my partisan? So like, Marcellus is like, shall I stab it? And Horatio's like, yeah, stab it if it will not stay put. Do it if it will not stand. And then at this point, Bernardo's like, 'tis here. And then Horatio's like, no, 'tis here. And then Marcellus is like, 'tis gone. So the ghost is evidently like, I don't know, teleporting around the stage. Sometimes it's done differently, you know, how that is handled. Like sometimes the ghost will swoop here and then swoop there, and one will point here or there. But it's pretty interesting. So then the ghost exits, and then Marcellus gets sad. He's like, we do it wrong being so majestical to offer it the show of violence. So he's like, man, we shouldn't have tried to stab it. We hurt its feelings. And then he gets upset because he's like, for it is as the air invulnerable, and our vain blows malicious mockery. So he's like, why are we stabbing at air? He's just air. He's a spirit. And then Bernardo goes, it was about to speak when the cock crew. And then Horatio goes, and then it started like a guilty thing upon a fearful summons. I have heard the cock that is the trumpet to the morn, doth with his lofty and shrill-sounding throat awake the god of day. And at his warning, whether in sea or fire, in earth or air, the extravagant and erring spirit hies to his confine, and of the truth herein, this present object made probation. So basically Horatio is talking about the cock, and that the rooster will crow at day and at night. And when he says that it must be a fearful summons, when the cock crows, that means that the sun is rising. And we're going to learn later on that the ghost has to follow certain rules when he walks the earth. He only has a certain amount of time that he can appear, and that he can be on earth. And once the cock crows, that's when he has to go back to where he's hanging out at, which is not pleasant. And I bet you can guess where he is. Also in the film, he's all steamy. I love that part. Like, he's like smoky, because, you know. Anywho, alright, so then Marcellus, he talks about it fated on the crowing of the cock. Some say that ever against that season comes wherein our Savior's birth is celebrated. So here Marcellus is talking about how, you know, ghosts can only roam certain parts of the day, and then they can't come out on the Savior's birth. They can't come out Christmas. And so they have certain rules. And then I like when he says, no fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm, so hallowed and so gracious is the time. The thing that I really like about Shakespeare and theater at this time is that they do this really interesting thing where they're Christian, but they're still so new in their Christianity that they still incorporate a lot of, you know, witches and fairies. And if you guys have had Macbeth, of course, they're the witches. So it's this weird marriage. So I think it's kind of cool. So look for that in this as well. So Horatio goes, so have I heard, and do in part believe it. Ah, but look, the morn in russet mantle clad. So he's looking at the sky, and, you know, it's becoming dawn. And he's like, walks in the dew of yon high eastward hill, break we our watch up. And by my advice, let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For upon my life, this spirit dumb to us will speak to him. Do you consent? We shall acquaint him with it, as needful in our loves fitting our duty. So Horatio here suggests that they need to tell young Hamlet about seeing the ghost of his father. And Marcellus goes, let's do it, I pray. And I this morning know where we shall find him most conveniently. So Marcellus is like, I know exactly where we can find young Hamlet. And that is Act 1, Scene 1. So from this point, I think you guys can go take the first quiz, and we will stop here. and we will pick up Act 1, Scene 2 in the next video. Adieu, class. Adieu.